The Wasteland is full of dangers. Mutants, raiders, radiation, and countless horrors. But there is one creature that stands out above the rest. A living nightmare that no survivor wants to encounter. It is a monster born from humanity's arrogance, a creature of terrifying power and relentless hunger. The Deathclaw. From the burning ashes of the Great War rose the Deathclaw, an apex predator created through the twisted experiments of Vault-Tec and the Forced Evolutionary Virus, FEV. While many creatures of the Wasteland are born from the collapse of civilization, few carry the same legacy of terror as the Deathclaw. Towering, brutish, and nearly unstoppable, these beasts have earned their place at the top of the food chain, preying on anything unlucky enough to cross their path. They are the ultimate predators of the post-apocalyptic world. Terror. That's the first feeling survivors get when they come face to face with a Deathclaw. Whether you're wandering the Wasteland, crossing the Mojave, or searching for supplies in the ruins, there's always a sense of unease. A looming dread in the back of your mind that tells you that a Deathclaw is never too far away. Even the most seasoned Wastelanders know that when a Deathclaw is near, survival is no longer guaranteed. It's said that the Deathclaw's roar alone can paralyze even the bravest of men with fear. And the creature's unrelenting strength and vicious claws make it a near impossible foe to defeat. The myth-like status of the Deathclaw is what fuels much of the fear surrounding it. The stories of survivors who have narrowly escaped, the legends passed down around campfires of brave souls who faced them head-on, only to be torn apart or turned into a meal. The Deathclaw is both a symbol of ultimate power and an emblem of humanity's hubris, a reminder of what happens when we tamper too far with nature. Yet, despite all the terror and chaos they've caused, there remains one undeniable truth. The Deathclaw is the ultimate predator in the Wasteland, an unstoppable force that commands respect even from those who've never seen one with their own eyes. To survive an encounter with one is a feat of legend. To fall victim to one is a fate that many would prefer to avoid. But what makes the Deathclaw such a feared creature? What is it about these mutated giants that put them at the top of the food chain? To answer that, we need to go back to where it all began, their creation, their evolution, and the deadly nature that makes them the stuff of nightmares in the Wasteland. In the following parts, we'll dive deep into the Deathclaw's origins, their predatory nature, and what it truly means to survive when facing the Wasteland's deadliest creature. The Deathclaw's story begins long before the war, long before they became the apex predator of the post-apocalyptic Wasteland. These creatures were the twisted results of humanity's obsession with power products, of Vault-Tec's experiments with the Forced Evolutionary Virus, FEV. Their origins, buried in secrecy and corruption, date back to the 2060s, when Vault-Tec sought to create a weapon of unimaginable strength and efficiency, one that would turn the tide of future conflicts in favor of the US government. They didn't seek a soldier. They sought a monster. The FEV, originally developed to create super soldiers, found its true application in these experiments. Vault-13, under the guise of improving human genetics, became the birthplace of these now legendary creatures. It was a virus meant to accelerate human evolution, transforming subjects into stronger, faster, more resilient beings. But the outcome was far beyond what they intended. The subjects were initially humans, yes, but the virus mutated them at an alarming rate, drastically changing their physiology. The Deathclaws weren't always the towering beasts they are today. In their earliest form, they were nothing more than a base experiment gone horribly wrong. They were intended to be agile, obedient warriors, an army of enhanced soldiers who would dominate the battlefield. But the virus twisted them into something far worse. Intelligent, monstrous creatures, with the instincts of predators, the strength of titans, and an insatiable hunger for dominance. As the virus altered their DNA, it increased their size, making them massive creatures, towering over most human survivors with their muscle-bound frames, claws that could rip through steel like it was paper, and a thick hide that made them nearly impervious to most firearms. They grew fast, becoming terrifying titans, but also developed intelligence far beyond that of typical animals, certainly more than the humans who had sought to control them. While their primary function was military, Deathclaws began to lose any semblance of obedience. No longer could they be directed as soldiers. They were something else entirely. The FEV transformed them into natural-born predators. And when the Great War broke out, the Deathclaws escaped into the wild, left to roam the wasteland freely uncontained, untamed, and unstoppable. The mutations didn't stop there. They gained near-immortal regenerative capabilities, allowing them to heal rapidly from wounds that would normally kill any other creature. The Deathclaws didn't just survive, they thrived in the post-apocalyptic world. They became an apex predator, capable of taking down entire herds of large animals with ease, and even attacking humans when provoked or when hungry. Their claws, longer than a grown man's arm, could slice through metal, and their jaws could crush a human skull like a melon. But it wasn't just physical strength that made them deadly. The Deathclaws were equipped with heightened senses, sharp hearing, near-perfect night vision, and an acute sense of smell. These senses made them formidable hunters, able to track their prey for miles and locate any living creature that moved within their range. Combined with their savage intelligence, they could outthink most other creatures in the wasteland. They learned quickly, adapting to their environment and using their massive size to their advantage. Yet, the most dangerous thing about the Deathclaws wasn't just their physical prowess, it was how they fit into the new world that humanity had left behind. They were symbols of nature's reclamation, rising from the ashes of the human-made apocalypse. And in this world, where the remnants of man's society lay shattered, the Deathclaws would forever remain untouchable. The ultimate predator in a world where humanity's reign had been shattered. Their sheer presence on the wasteland's landscape was enough to make survivors tremble. The Deathclaws weren't just a result of science gone wrong. They were nature's judgment, and in their wake, they left nothing but fear, death, and myth. The Deathclaw's attack is swift, precise, and merciless. Every encounter with one is a lesson in the brutal efficiency of nature. These creatures are not born to hunt in the traditional sense. They are the hunt. Their very existence is based on being the apex predator in a world where the laws of nature demand the strong survive and the weak perish. When you come across a Deathclaw in the wasteland, it's already too late. The creature has already sized you up, calculated the distance, and begun its approach. Whether it's hunting alone or, in rare cases, stalking in a pack, a Deathclaw's strategy is always the same: overwhelm, overpower, and consume. Deathclaws rely on their incredible speed and strength to disorient and trap their prey, often attacking without warning. Their claws, capable of rending metal with ease, are their primary weapon, inflicting massive, life-ending damage with each swipe. Unlike other predators in the wasteland, Deathclaws do not rely on stealth or camouflage. They are terrifyingly direct. They move with purpose, stalking their target until they're within striking range. Their heightened senses make it nearly impossible to hide from them. They can sense movement from miles away and detect the faintest vibrations through the ground. Their acute sense of smell allows them to track their prey, even through thick foliage or urban debris. When they lock onto you, you are as good as caught. The Deathclaw's physical prowess makes it one of the most dangerous and efficient predators in the Wasteland. At over 10 feet tall, they move with the speed of a predator that understands no one can escape its reach. Their muscular legs give them incredible power to jump long distances or charge toward their prey with blinding speed. Once they're within striking range, the Deathclaw's massive claws become the tools of its destruction. Each strike can tear through armor and cripple the toughest survivor. The claws alone are enough to kill a man in one swipe, shredding both flesh and bone with terrifying precision. The creature's teeth are just as lethal jaws capable of crushing a human skull with ease. But it's not just their sheer physical strength that makes them such a threat. Deathclaws are intelligent predators. While they may lack the cunning of human strategists, they possess an instinctual intelligence that makes them far more dangerous than the average beast. They learn quickly and adapt to their environment. They understand the behavior of their prey and use their surroundings to trap and corner their victims. For example, a Deathclaw might use environmental cover, such as ruins or rocky terrain, to approach without being detected. If it feels threatened, it will retreat briefly, only to return with an even more devastating attack. Most survivors know to avoid open spaces when in Deathclaw territory. The best chance of survival is to stay in enclosed areas where the Deathclaw's size and speed are hindered, though this is often easier said than done. A Deathclaw will chase you through the ruins, navigate alleyways, and climb over obstacles to get to its prey. It will never tire, it doesn't need to. It will only stop when it's either dead or satisfied. The key to surviving an attack is speed and strategy. Running is not an option unless you have the terrain or a vehicle that can outrun the Deathclaw's speed. Even then, it's a race you'll likely lose. Survivors who have survived encounters with these beasts suggest staying mobile and using cover as much as possible. The best tactic is often to keep distance, whether through higher ground, jumping from rock to rock, or setting traps to delay the Deathclaw's advance. Weapons like laser rifles or plasma grenades are effective in piercing the Deathclaw's thick hide, but the amount of damage needed to bring one down is significant. The Fat Man or miniguns are ideal for taking on a Deathclaw, but most Wastelanders don't carry these kinds of weapons on a daily basis. A well-placed headshot with a sniper rifle can kill a Deathclaw, but hitting its head, let alone avoiding its claws and teeth, is an incredible challenge for even the most seasoned marksman. Though rare, group tactics can be effective. A coordinated team, armed with high-powered rifles and explosives, has a better chance of taking down a Deathclaw. However, this tactic often involves heavy casualties. Deathclaws are notorious for taking down entire squads of soldiers, especially when they've been cornered or provoked. Beyond the immediate danger of the Deathclaw's attack is the psychological toll it takes on those who face it. Survivors often speak of sensing the Deathclaw before they see it, a primal fear that rises from deep within the subconscious. When you hear the telltale screech, the primal roar of the Deathclaw as it charges, it fills the air with terror. You don't just face a creature that can kill you. You face a force of nature, an unavoidable truth that survival is often nothing more than luck. You never forget the moment you first face a Deathclaw. It's not just a matter of sight, it's a feeling, a presence in the air, a cold, creeping terror that paralyzes the mind before the body even registers the danger. It could happen in a ruined building, while scavenging through a collapsed overpass, or while making your way through the dense scrub of the Mojave. And when it happens, Everything you thought you knew about survival gets thrown out the window. You hear it before you see it. The ground vibrates underfoot, and the hum of the wasteland's otherwise quiet environment fades away. Your stomach drops, and you feel a sudden sense of something coming, a predator that you can't outrun, even if you tried. The Deathclaw's roar rips through the silence like a jagged shard of metal tearing through flesh. It's not a growl. It's a primal sound, a warning to anything alive nearby that it is here and it is coming for you. It starts slow. The creature is massive. You can hear the thudding of its claws against the earth, feel it in the pit of your stomach like the onset of a natural disaster. You'll freeze for a second, just long enough for that surge of adrenaline to hit. But if you've been in the wasteland long enough, you'll know the most important rule when it comes to a Deathclaw. Never stop moving. The first glimpse is always the worst. It bursts out of the brush or from around a corner, like it's been stalking you for hours, even though you never knew it was there. It doesn't just approach, it lumbers forward with purpose. Its enormous claws leaving deep indentations in the ground. Its massive scaled body rippling with power. The Deathclaw's eyes, glowing with predatory focus, lock onto you. They are the eyes of a creature that doesn't need to think. It knows what it's doing. At that moment, all your survival instincts kick in. Run, fight, hide, but all of those options seem equally futile. Running is a death sentence. A Deathclaw is faster than a human by far. It doesn't tire, and it doesn't falter in its pursuit. In an open field, your best bet might be to find something to climb. But most of the time, you're too exposed, the creature will reach you before you have a chance to make a move. And, if it's cornered, the Deathclaw can become an even more dangerous force, lashing out with primal fury. Your only hope is distance. And if you're smart, you've learned that the Deathclaw won't immediately charge no. It will test you first, feeling you out, watching your movements. The most seasoned survivors know the key to survival is taking advantage of those precious few seconds to plan. If you're armed and have some decent gear, your next move is to fight back. The problem is, the Deathclaw's hide is tough. It's essentially armor-plated. Standard firearms will hardly scratch it, and even powerful rifles struggle to pierce its thick skin. Aim for the eyes, the throat, or the soft underbelly where the scales are thinner. The headshot is the only guaranteed method to bring it down, but it's easier said than done. Every time you move, the Deathclaw mirrors it, and its claws are faster than you think. A single swipe from those razor-sharp talons can tear apart your armor and leave you bleeding out before you even realize what happened. Still, fighting a Deathclaw head-on is something you can only do if you're prepared. If you've got armor that can take a few hits, or a weapon powerful enough to at least hurt it. Explosives, rocket launchers, and a well-placed sniper rifle shot to the head are the most effective tools in your arsenal. But even then, it's a battle of attrition. You'll take a hit, you'll get bruised. And sometimes, even the strongest weapon can miss when the Deathclaw moves too quickly. But the true terror of the encounter is not in the physical battle, it's in the psychological toll. The moment the Deathclaw charges at you, it feels like time itself is slowing down. Your heart races, and all you can think is that this might be your last moment alive. The world becomes a blur of adrenaline, confusion, and fear. And even if you manage to get a few shots off, to land a hit, there's always the lingering knowledge that the Deathclaw's next strike could end it all. If you're lucky, you might have some cover-abandoned structures, rock outcroppings, thick trees, anything to block line of sight. Sometimes, if you're quick enough, you can make it to higher ground, where the Deathclaw can't reach you. The creature, for all its power, is still bound by the limits of terrain. And this is your moment and opportunity to take advantage of a small mistake. You may not be able to kill it outright, but you can at least get away, run, hide, and pray that it loses interest. If you survive the encounter, you'll walk away with more than just physical scars. The emotional toll of facing a creature like that can last long after the adrenaline fades. The knowledge that you've survived something that should have killed you becomes both a burden and a blessing. The Wasteland doesn't offer many second chances, but when it comes to Deathclaws, every escape feels like a victory. And while most survivors learn to avoid Deathclaws at all costs, some feel the need to prove themselves to take the challenge head-on. For them, every encounter with a Deathclaw is not just a fight for survival, but a way to test their own mortality. There are stories of heroes who have slain the beasts, of towns that have managed to ward them off, but these are tales, not guarantees. In the end, the true challenge of encountering a Deathclaw isn't how you fight it, but how you survive the fight and how you learn to live with the aftermath. Whether you walk away with a scar or a story, the encounter is one that will change you forever. Surviving a Deathclaw encounter is no small feat, but surviving the Wasteland's most terrifying predator doesn't always come down to brute force or weaponry. More often than not, escaping the Deathclaw's fury is about cleverness, preparation, and knowing when to run. If you ever find yourself in the unfortunate situation where you're being hunted by one of these beasts, you need to be ready to rely on more than just your firepower. Sometimes the only way out is to be smarter than the monster chasing you. First, let's talk about terrain. The landscape of the Wasteland is a weapon in itself. Deathclaws, though incredibly fast and agile, are still bound by their size and strength. They may be able to charge down a straight path with terrifying speed, but they struggle with obstacles that limit their movement. Understanding your surroundings and positioning yourself strategically can mean the difference between survival and becoming a Deathclaw's next meal. When in a Deathclaw's territory, always be mindful of your environment. High ground is your best friend. These creatures may be agile, but they don't have the same mobility in high places or cramped spaces. If you're in a relatively open area, seeking elevated terrain such as a cliffside, building rooftop, or rock outcropping gives you the upper hand. The Deathclaw may be able to jump, but it can't climb like a human or smaller animal. Using this to your advantage can give you precious moments to gather your bearings, plan your escape, or even take a shot if you have the right weapon. If high ground isn't an option, find cover. Abandoned structures, rocks, trees, anything that can put obstacles between you and the Deathclaw can slow it down. While the creature's claws can tear through most obstacles, they are still limited by their need to attack from a certain angle. Taking refuge behind a sturdy structure may not stop the Deathclaw, but it can give you valuable seconds to rethink your strategy or make a run for it when the creature is momentarily distracted. A Deathclaw's incredible senses, its keen hearing, superior smell, and night vision make it almost impossible to escape if it's already locked onto you. Running blindly may seem like your only option, but often, the best way to escape a Deathclaw is through stealth and misdirection. Using noise to your advantage can help create distractions. Throwing objects or setting off explosives from a distance can momentarily pull the Deathclaw's attention elsewhere, buying you enough time to hide or get to safety. If you're in an area with other animals, you might be able to use them as distractions. A pack of radstags or a group of mole rats may not stand a chance against a Deathclaw. but they can confuse it for a few moments. When you hear the creature's roar grow distant, that's your cue to move quickly, but quietly. Stealth is another vital survival tool. If you've equipped yourself with light armor or stealth buoys, you can slip past a Deathclaw's detection radius. Stay low to the ground, moving quietly between pieces of cover, making yourself as small and inconspicuous as possible. However, don't rely solely on stealth. It's a tool, not a guarantee. Even the best cloaking technology can fail if the Deathclaw is close enough or if it catches your scent. In some cases, the best way to escape is through cunning traps and barricades. While it's unlikely that you'll be able to kill a Deathclaw through conventional means, setting up traps can slow it down or even cause it to hesitate. Tripwires, explosive traps, and spiked barricades are effective at creating barriers between you and the Deathclaw. These traps won't kill the creature they're not meant to, but they can create distractions or give you time to get away. If you're working with a team, coordinated traps can be even more effective. For instance, baiting a Deathclaw into a narrow passage where it can't turn around is a classic tactic. Once it's in place, detonate explosives or fire a high-powered weapon to deal heavy damage from a safe distance. These traps aren't foolproof, and Deathclaws are smart enough to avoid some forms of setup. But when they're desperate, they can be led into danger if you use the right tactics. There's an old adage that says, if you're faster than the slowest member of your group, you'll survive. In the case of a Deathclaw, this is more true than ever. The key to surviving an encounter is often knowing when to flee, and that doesn't just mean running away. It means knowing when a fight is unwinnable, when your resources are exhausted, and when you need to cut your losses and retreat. If you're facing a Deathclaw alone, fighting it is a losing proposition unless you have the firepower to make a serious dent. Even if you do manage to land a few hits, the creature's regenerative abilities make it an immense challenge to kill, and it's likely that it will kill you first. Running is often the best option, but it's vital that you know when and where to run. If you're in a group, the goal is simple. Get everyone out alive. There's no shame in retreating when the odds are against you. If you're carrying injured survivors, be sure to prioritize escape over engagement. The Deathclaw is a creature that can tear through your group like paper. But you can't outpace it in open terrain unless you have prepared routes of escape or know the terrain well. The final piece of advice for surviving a Deathclaw encounter is preparation. If you know you're about to enter an area with a high chance of encountering Deathclaws, make sure you've equipped yourself properly. High-powered weapons like laser rifles, plasma guns, and explosives should be on hand. Additionally, having power armor or sturdy clothing that offers protection against the creature's claws is crucial. Consider bringing stim packs, Rad-X, and Radaway, as Deathclaws are often found in radiated zones. Having a companion or team can make the difference between surviving and becoming Deathclaw food. Work together, strategize, and always prioritize getting out of the fight. If you can't kill it, you must survive it. In the end, the Deathclaw's fury doesn't just test your ability to fight it, tests your capacity for survival. Avoidance, escape, and cleverness are your best weapons in the Wasteland. Whether you're running through rocky hills or hiding in a ruined building, you don't have to fight a Deathclaw to live. Sometimes, surviving is about learning when to step back, stay silent, and wait for the predator to lose interest. The Deathclaw is more than just a creature, it's a legend that haunts the Wasteland. Its very name evokes fear and awe, a symbol of both nature's uncontrollable power and humanity's downfall. Over time, the The Deathclaw has become an integral part of the Wasteland's mythology, woven into the stories of survivors, traders, and warriors alike. It is spoken of in hushed tones, used to frighten children, and serve as a grim warning to any who think they can conquer the Wasteland without consequences. Most people in the Wasteland are familiar with the Deathclaw's reputation. But as with all legends, there are multiple versions of its story. Different factions and survivors have their own take on the creature, interpreting it through the lens of their own experiences and fears. To the NCR, New California Republic, the Deathclaw represents the unpredictable wilderness they struggle to control. They've made numerous attempts to eliminate them from the Mojave, sending troops on dangerous missions to clear Deathclaw nests. Despite their efforts, the creatures continue to evade capture and remain a constant threat to both their soldiers and civilians. The NCR military might boast about their training, tactics, and weaponry. But when it comes to Deathclaws, even the bravest soldiers have been known to hesitate, or worse, flee in terror. The soldiers stationed in the Mojave outpost speak of Deathclaws as the ultimate test of survival, a reminder that even the largest, most organized factions of the Wasteland must respect nature's power. The Brotherhood of Steel, ever so pragmatic in their pursuit of technology and domination, views Deathclaws with a mix of curiosity and dread. They have records of the creatures and their violent history, but their interest isn't based on fear. It's about understanding how the Deathclaw's biology can be harnessed or studied for future weaponry. Brotherhood scientists have even gone so far as to capture a few Deathclaws for research. But these creatures are elusive and almost impossible to contain. The Brotherhood's scribes have documented their interactions with the creatures, noting their intelligence and adaptability. Seeing the Deathclaw not just as a monster, but as a product of pre-war experimentation gone awry, a creature that represents both humanity's failure and nature's superiority. For the Raiders, the Deathclaw is both a myth and a tool of terror. In some twisted corners of the Wasteland, raiders have made deals with local Deathclaw populations, offering sacrifices in exchange for protection or territorial dominance. Some raiders even paint their faces in Deathclaw-inspired markings or adopt Deathclaw motifs in their outfits as a sign of power, using the legend to scare their rivals. These raiders may not understand the true nature of the Deathclaws, but they recognize that the fear they instill through their association with these beasts gives them a level of control in the chaos of the Wasteland. To survivors who have never faced a Deathclaw, the creature is often reduced to myth, a terrifying tale told around campfires. The stories change depending on the region. Some say the Deathclaws are ancient beings, survivors of the Great War who have adapted to the post-apocalyptic world. Others claim that they were created as part of a military experiment gone horribly wrong. The mythologizing of the Deathclaw has given rise to countless urban legends. Some say that if you offer a Deathclaw an offering, it will spare your life, a myth that has led more than one desperate scavenger to waste precious resources in an effort to appease the creatures. Others tell stories of Deathclaws leading survivors into their lairs, only for the survivors to be consumed alive, a myth designed to explain the terrifying, silent nature of these predators. In Vault-Tec's twisted history, there are whispers of their involvement in the creation of Deathclaws. Vault-13's experiment is cited as the most well-known example of the virus's unpredictable effects. But rumors suggest that other vaults may have been working on similar projects. For some, the Deathclaw isn't just a monster born of military ambition. It's a symbol of the failings of the pre-war world, the result of a species that believed it could control nature and shape it to its own ends. In the Wasteland, the Deathclaw has transcended its biological origins. becoming a symbol of the raw, unforgiving nature of the world after the Great War. It represents the dangerous beauty of the wasteland, a force that cannot be tamed or reasoned with, only survived or feared. For survivors who encounter them, Deathclaws represent the final test, a challenge that only the strongest or luckiest can overcome. The stories of those who have faced Deathclaws are often laced with a sense of reverence. People speak of surviving encounters not as a triumph, but as a test of endurance and will, an event that changes you. After all, few can claim to have faced the Deathclaw and lived to tell the tale. Fewer still can claim to have killed one. To most, the Deathclaw remains more than just a creature. It is an idea, a symbol of the wasteland's harshest truths. It is a living legend that teaches respect for the unknown and reminds the survivors that, no matter how advanced their technology or how well armed they are still at the mercy of a force far greater than themselves. The Deathclaw's legacy is more than just fear. It's a story woven deeply into the fabric of the wasteland, a testament to the failure of humanity's hubris and the raw, untamable power of nature that has reclaimed what was once ours. Created as a weapon of war, meant to be the pinnacle of military evolution, the Deathclaw transcended its original purpose to become something more, something primal, something terrifying, something unavoidable. Over the years, survivors have told their tales, building myths and legends around these creatures. Deathclaws have become symbols of strength, of destruction, and of the wasteland's unforgiving will. For every raider who uses their name to instill fear, for every survivor who cowers at the sight of their shadow, the Deathclaw becomes more than just an apex predator. It becomes an emblem of the wasteland itself, a reminder of the chaotic order that rules over the remains of humanity. But the Deathclaw is not just a myth. It is still here, still roaming the wasteland, still asserting its place as the deadliest force in the wilds. The stories of survivors who faced these creatures, those who managed to escape, those who didn't become part of the lore that shapes the wasteland. From the lonely survivor hiding in a ruined shack to the well-trained NCR soldier on the hunt, the presence of a Deathclaw changes everything. The creatures remain as a constant threat, a living testament to the consequences of genetic tampering. While humanity's cities crumble and new generations grow up, only knowing the ruins, the Deathclaws stand as the ultimate reminder of what happens when nature is pushed too far, when the natural order is thrown aside in the name of progress. The experiment that created them was supposed to be the height of human achievement, but it ended up as the epitaph of human arrogance. There are some who still try to hunt Deathclaws, thinking they can prove their worth or bring these beasts under control. Hunters in the Mojave, mercenaries, even factions like the Brotherhood of Steel have all attempted to take on these titans of the wasteland, each coming away with scars or failure. No one can tame them. No one can control them, not even the mightiest armies or the most powerful weapons. In the end, the Deathclaws remain untouchable, their power as wild and untamed as the wasteland itself. In the wasteland, the Deathclaw's legacy is undeniable. It's the ultimate predator, its strength, speed, and fury making it a force of nature that no human, no matter how brave, can truly conquer. Survival is all that matters when facing one. And even those who survive carry the weight of that encounter with them for the rest of their lives. The fear, the respect, the awe, these are the things that outlast the fight. Deathclaws represent the raw, unyielding power of nature, and the lingering truth that the wasteland doesn't belong to humanity anymore. As long as the Deathclaws roam, their legacy will continue to shape the wasteland, a legacy of destruction, survival, and myth. The Deathclaws are the Wasteland's greatest challenge, its fiercest beast, and perhaps its truest judge. In the end, the Deathclaw is more than a creature. It is a living monument to everything humanity once tried to control, and everything it has since lost. And as the Wasteland continues to change, as new factions rise and old ones fall, the legend of the Deathclaws will remain. A reminder that the wild has always been stronger than civilization, and that the true power in the Wasteland lies in the claws of the beast that rules over it.